Hi everybody, welcome back to English 90. This is our class for Monday, the 15th of November, where I wanted to talk a little bit more about punctuation and our next essay, Taming the Anger Monster. But if you'll see in the notes below, I'm beginning with some more job information, specifically some job fairs that are coming up. You may or may not know that GCC works with the MassHire Franklin Hampshire Career Center, and they are offering a free job fair. And this is on November 15th. It's a virtual job fair, and MassHire is offering it through GCC. They're also offering a statewide job fair on November 17th. So if you were to click below on the information about the MassHire local job fair, that'll take you to some information. And I wasn't able to find information about the statewide job fair, but I have given you information on who to contact, and that would be Shannon Doran from Career Services. You can see that I've included the Career Services email as well as some virtual drop-in hours that the Career Services has if you wanted to interact more with the career counselor, as well as the website for the Career Services. And one of the things on the website for Career Services is a job board called Handshake that's becoming quite popular nowadays. I hear it's becoming even more popular than Indeed.com, which is another great place to find information about available jobs. So I've given you the link in which you can join Handshake. And Purdue OWL is our transition into grammar and mechanics. And Purdue OWL is a website that actually was put out through Purdue University, but it's free and accessible to everybody. And it is a wonderful resource for grammar and mechanics. It goes through the entire process, much like we've been doing over the course of the semester, not just in terms of the entire writing process, but the elements of grammar and mechanics that we've been talking about as well. So I highly recommend it. And of course, you can find this information in other places, and you can also find it in textbooks as well. But I gave you the Purdue OWL website link so that you can peruse it on your own if you so wanted to. What I'm talking about today are three specific pieces of punctuation that I haven't had an opportunity to talk about yet: the colon, the parentheses, and the dash. And the colon, which is basically one period on top of another, it sets off a list. Usually that's the most common way that we use a colon. It sets off a list from a sentence. So the example I gave you below, and this is in section 3, is that today I will do the following. So that's my sentence. Today I will do the following. And basically I've prepared you for the idea that I'm going to be introducing a list. So I have a colon there. Notice that I put it in red and bold. Not that you need to put it in red or bold, but I just wanted it to be visually accessible for you. I've got a colon, one period on top of the other, and then my list follows. Teach, comma, grade, comma, and clean, which is the story of my life, I must say. And then in the next section, section 4, is parentheses. Those are those curved brackets. And you use them for incidental information, basically additional information that you're adding in a sentence that really is not necessary for the sentence itself. So you could take out the information in those parentheses and still have a complete sentence. But this is additional or incidental information. I almost think of it as a kind of whisper. And I've given you an example below. With the sentence, at my favorite pub, and then in parentheses, the People's Pint, and then I close my parentheses, I ordered a drink. So basically the sentence is, at my favorite pub, I ordered a drink. But in the parentheses, the People's Pint, I've given you additional information, the specific pub that I'm talking about. Not that I would have to give you that information. I could delete the People's Pint and have a complete sentence. At my favorite pub, I ordered a drink. So another way that you could add in this information is by using commas before and after when we were talking about interrupters in a sentence. But if you are using parentheses, and again, notice I put them in red and bold, you wouldn't be doing that. I just wanted you to be able to easily see them. But if you put it in parentheses rather than in commas, what you're saying is that this is even less important. Again, so you have some judgment calls based on the way you use punctuation. And then lastly, in section 5, the dash. And this is a long pause for dramatic effect. And you can see that I've given you an example as well. I will visit you, and then I've got the dash, again, bolded and in red, which you wouldn't do, if you make me dinner. So basically, it's almost like the long pause before a comedian gets to a punchline. It's all about timing. And the correct way to read this is, I will visit you if you make me dinner. So the idea is that there's a long pause before we get to the second point. Um, it should not be read like, I will visit you if you make me dinner. If without that basically dash, then you're not emphasizing the second part of the sentence, if you make me dinner. So it's a long pause for dramatic effect. We use the dash, the parentheses, and the colon very rarely in our writing. It's one of the reasons why I've talked about other pieces of punctuation first, pieces of punctuation that you use frequently, such as the comma. But I did want to cover these three pieces of punctuation. In terms of essays, as you know, we've been reading essays in our textbook, and the essay Taming the Anger Monster seemed to have particular relevance in today's society. I must say that, at least in my lifetime, I've never seen people more angry than they are now, for a whole host of reasons, I'm sure. This is on page 293 to 297, and this essay talks about, from the author's perspective, this is the thesis, that there are three components that result in anger: time, technology, and tension. Again, a thesis is a position upon which reasonable people could disagree, so you could make an argument that there are other factors at play. And the author addresses all three by talking about time, that we've got limited time. We've got long work hours and short vacation times and long commutes and limited sleep. That's one of the reasons why we're angry. And then the author talks about technology. That technology has made us angry. That we have 24/7 availability now because of technology, and that definitely has taken a toll on our work life. And there is an increased complexity to life and our interactions with others because of technology. And that includes things like social media. And then lastly, the tension that results from the limited time and the technological pressures that we have. And that leads to frustration and exhaustion. And we see this in some of the issues with anger and global events and our 24/7 news cycle, which just feeds our increase of information, which leads to our increases in anxiety and tension. That leads to anger. And that anger leads to physical harm. And this was some of what we were examining in our wellness journals, things like heart attacks and high blood pressure, for instance. And according to the author, that combating anger is basically done through a kind of common sense approach and patience, because the initial response of anger has been shown through studies to last about 3 seconds. And that venting anger, talking about the reasons why you're angry, can sometimes relieve anger, but sometimes can lead to a continuation of anger. And I think, again, we've seen this in social media. So there's some irony there. So in some ways, this is related to our wellness journals. And note that we are on wellness journal number 5. I've fallen a little bit behind in my grading, but I'm catching up. So I should be able to get you your overdue journals and your attendance question responses back to you sooner rather than later. Your next journal will be due this upcoming Wednesday, which is November 17th at 11:59 p.m. as usual via PDF to my email, ruiz@gcc.mass.edu. And the essay that I'm asking you to read and write a response on is, what is self-care and why is it important for you? What is self-care and why is it important for you? And for our attendance question, I thought I would go back to the reading that was assigned for today about anger. And the attendance question is something that you can answer on our class discussion forum. And this is by Tuesday, the 16th at 10 a.m. And the question is what suggestion do you have to reduce anger in our country? What suggestion do you have to reduce anger in the United States, and why? Because as I shared with you, I don't think I've ever seen a time in my lifetime where there hasn't been more anger. Individual anger and societal anger and political anger and social anger. So what are your suggestions about how we as a people, as well as we as individuals, can reduce the temperature, so to speak? That was a phrase that President Biden used, to reduce the anger in the United States, and why? I'm very curious to hear your responses. This is something that I think we all need to collectively work on as a society. So I hope you're all doing well. Today's class is a rather short class, so that you can catch up if you haven't had an opportunity to catch up thus far. And we will continue on next class. Again, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well, and we will continue on with our syllabus next class. Take care. Bye-bye.